Hey guys, I'm Derek Wilkins. Today I'm with my business partner, Drew Nichols, and today we're going to do a deep dive on North American Life's VersaChoice Equity Index Annuity. So the VersaChoice 10. Drew, how are you doing today?
Good. So let's just jump right into who might want to watch this versus who might not be that interested. This is a fixed index annuity. So it provides some long-term care benefits as well, which is why we here at LTC Tree, which kind of specialize in long-term care, we got onto this product a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so it is an equity index annuity with they call it an enhanced liquidity benefit. And how it kind of ties into long-term care is after the fifth year, whatever the account has grown to, they give a 25% bonus to the account's value. And today we're going to go over all the nuts and bolts and all the pros and cons of annuities. And so you really have a firm understanding on what this product does and if it might be right for you.
Yeah, one of the things like we like to do is not just go through the pros, but also the cons. With annuities, it's one of those things where you really have to be, educated on what you're buying because there's a lot of complexity with these. So we're going to try to peel that complexity back, break it down to the lowest common denominator. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we are going to take a look at a specific illustration. Now, we're filming this in early 2024. The numbers change month to month, so request a specific quote for yourself if you like this concept, and we'll generate one for your specific case.
Yeah, so to start, what is an equity index annuity? An equity index annuity, it's a type of fixed annuity. So your principal is never directly exposed to equities. It's indirectly exposed to equities through what are called options. So what the insurance company will do will take your, in this example, $100,000. They can't just go put it in the stock market. They have to go put it in fixed assets like treasury. So right now the treasuries are paying, 5, 6%. So they'll take that $5,000 to $6,000 in interest. This is all internally done. They'll use that interest and then they'll go buy options in these indexes. The three indexes we chose today are Goldman Sachs, Fidelity, MFY, 5%, and then Morgan Stanley. So they'll indirectly put the money in those. If the options hit, they pass the interest on to you. If they miss, you just lose the interest for that year. You don't lose the principal. But going back to one of the cons of equity index annuities, the biggest con of this is the insurance company is going to guarantee you on the downside, but the trade-off is you also guarantee them for 10 years, I'm not going to take out more than 10% per year if I need long-term care.
Yeah, so
So
this needs to be money that you're comfortable just keeping parked. If it's something where it's like, well, I might need this for a college fund for my kids in 5 years, don't buy it.
exactly, yeah. So it's something that the trade-off is the liquidity in the first 10 years. Now, after 10 years, you can take all the money out with no fee. And you can take out 10% each year, and years where you didn't take out your 10% the previous year, you can take out 20%. And so it's the liquidity thing. Now, one good thing about this is if you ever need long-term care, help with your 2 of 6 activities of daily living, just like long-term care insurance, they waive the surrender charge. So you can take all the money out if you wanted to.
Yeah, and having said that, if you weren't able to qualify for a traditional or a hybrid long-term care insurance policy, so if you've applied and been declined, but you don't need long-term care, you don't live in a nursing home, you don't have a need for home health care, you can qualify for this product with one underwriting question.
Yeah, the underwriting question is, do you currently need help with your activities of daily living, which are eating, bathing, dressing, toileting, transferring, and maintaining continence? So as long as you can answer, that you don't need help with any of those, you can qualify for this. The other qualification is going to be a financial qualification. The insurance companies, they won't allow you to put a huge percentage of your assets in this because the liquidity issue. So if you just had $100,000 to your name, this is not the right product for you. This is going to be more for the slightly higher net worth clients, maybe $500,000 or higher of assets, where this is just a smaller percentage of their assets.
Right, and we would never encourage anybody to put all their money in annuities anyway. That's not ever a good idea, really. This is a good way to diversify, to capture some upside potential of the market, to not have that downside potential. And you don't have to use it for long-term care. That's just for the bonus. So a lot of people are drawn to this product because they're not really sure if they're going to need long-term care. They're pretty sure they probably won't need it, but they want to have a little extra coverage just in case. On the flip side, if you never need long-term care and you cash this out, that's money that you can spend as you see fit, once you actually cash out the annuity.
Yeah, yeah. And so you're always comparing it with what are your other options are. Like I said, we're LTC True. We help people plan for long-term care that could happen down the road. And there's two types of long-term care. You have the traditional long-term care insurance where it doesn't have cash value. It's kind of it's like your home or your auto. You pay an annual premium. It's kind of use it or lose it. Then you have the hybrid long-term care insurance. Now, we just did a video previously on hybrid long-term care insurance. And so when you're comparing hybrid long-term care insurance to this, like you said, Drew, this is kind of for people who are they're concerned about possibly needing long-term care, but they're not losing a lot of sleep at night. So it's just kind of in the back of their mind. And so hybrid long-term care insurance, you have an increasing long-term care pool of money paid tax-free. That's one advantage of that. But if you die and never use it, you pretty much get your premium back. So if you gave them 100 grand, maybe Nationwide's going to give you 120,000 back, in 20 years to your family if you never use it. The advantage of the equity index annuity, this North American VersaChoice, is whatever money you put in, it's indexed to these funds, and it's not guaranteed to do this by any stretch of the imagination, but the past 10 years, it's averaged a little over 13% each year. So in the illustration, Drew is going to show you, I think 100,000 in 20 years is, if the past 10 years repeated in some ballpark form or fashion, would be 900,000. Again, I preface, it's not guaranteed to do this. But if it did, and you were to pass away, you're going to have a heck of a lot more money in this version than the hybrid long-term care insurance.
Yep, and you can use it for literally anything. So let's jump right into a specific illustration. Now, one thing that we like about this product is that you can change your strategy. You can pick a strategy today, and you are married to it for 2 years. But once you get to that 2-year policy anniversary, you can change your strategy. So we're going to start right now with the strategy that we've been picking for a lot of our clients and helping them, choose. Everyone's a little bit different, wouldn't you say, Derek? You do more of these than I do.
Yeah, so it's like everybody's situation is different, but specifically with this product, we like this mix. There's a Goldman Sachs option, the MSG, that's the Morgan Stanley, and we have a Fidelity. So we're pretty much doing a third. And you'll notice on the third block, you see what are called these, it's basically a fee, the strategy fee. So the Fidelity and the Morgan Stanley, you're paying 0.95% fee each year. Now, you certainly can buy this equity index annuity with zero fees. The Goldman Sachs does not have a fee. Now, what do you get for this fee? Why do I want to pay 0.95? So if you look to the left of the fee, you'll see something called 300%. So that's essentially leverage on whatever the Fidelity and the Morgan Stanley indexes do over the next 2 years. So if they're up, say they're up 10% over the next 2 years, they're going to take 10% times 300%. That would have been a 30% return on that block of money. So if you bought this without the fees, again, these can change. It was 275%, 6 months ago. Now it's 300% because this is tied with the Fed increasing rates. So the higher that rate, Fed funds rate, the more advantageous these products are. So right now it's 300%. And you notice on the Goldman Sachs, it's 130%. There's not even a fee option on the Goldman Sachs. So 2/3 of your money would be growing indexed with that fee, and then 1/3 of your money will be growing without the fee. And so it's basically just a leverage on your money. If you bought this without the fee with Fidelity and Morgan Stanley, the leverage would be 250%. So that's what you're getting by paying that fee. Again, you don't have to do it. You can do it. You don't have to do it. Or you could do a combination. You could do 25% with the fee, 25% without the fee on Fidelity, really any way you want to slice it.
You can even do a fixed account. The last one I did a 50% fixed account. They were a more conservative investor, and they wanted to have that fixed guaranteed rate for a couple of years. And actually, the idea there was that the fixed account could, in the worst case scenario, if indexes are down, would so you basically have no growth and you're just paying the fees on those index
Yeah.
sides. The fixed account can actually help pay those fees with the fixed return. So there's a lot of ways to do this. This is again, we're working with an advisor who knows how to do this, is going to be very advantageous to you.
Yeah. So Drew, if you could flip to the page where it goes the worst case scenario, I think it's page 7. Yeah. So you can see here, this, you see this column right before that green line on the right hand side, you just see nothing but zeros. So this is if you put the money in and these indexes, the Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Fidelity, got zero every single year for 20 years.
Yep.
Which could happen. But again, this is a fixed annuity. So you can see that middle column, the accumulation value. You see, you put the 100,000 in and it's decreasing. What's up with that? Well, you're still, this is also assuming you didn't make any changes to this. But in this example, you don't make any changes and you still pay that fee. You can just see your 100,000 is not 100,000 anymore. The reason that is you're paying those fees. However, because this is a fixed annuity, there's a column to the right of that called the minimum guarantee surrender value. So you can look at out 20 years, and I'm reading this, Drew, is that 143,000?
Yeah, 143, and at 10 years, it's 111. So let's talk about the difference. People always ask, why is there a difference between these two columns?
Yeah, so the accumulation value is the actual performance of the fund, less the fees. Obviously, in this example, you're not getting any return, so you're still yet you're paying those fees just like any other mutual fund. So your account value is going down. Again, as I mentioned, because it's a fixed annuity, the insurance commissioners in each state, they require these products to have some type of internal basic return, worst case scenario. And so that's where, if you did the math, probably in 20 years, if you had, with 100 grew to 143, that's probably like a 1.5% return. We'd have to do the math, but it would have just be some basic, level of growth. Now you're not buying this for this. I mean, it could happen, and if the market's down 20 years in a row, there's probably bigger fish to fry at that point. But
yeah, that's a key takeaway. Is we're talking about an apocalyptic scenario here where there's 10 years, and I'm going to go to 10 years because that's how long you're married to this investment. So at 10
yeah,
years, are they going to get 94 or are they going to get 111 if they just cash out the investment?
yeah, it's just simple as you get the higher of the two values, and you'll see on the next column on the next page where it back tests the previous 10 years and gives you an example of what this product would have done in the previous 10 years.
Yeah, so let's do that. Let's go to a back testing from the end of 2012 to the end of 22, and we'll keep in mind that 2022 was a pretty bad year for the market. So
yeah, and so yeah, that bad year when the market was down 25%, that's baked into these numbers too. So the 2023 numbers are not out yet, so these numbers will all look a little bit better once they come out with the illustration for this past year when the market was up.
Yep. Now, another thing with most of these strategies, we are using a 2-year point-to-point crediting strategy. So what that means is that they're going to basically let their option index ride, and we need to be sure to say this is an insurance policy. This is not investments per se. So the option is going to be evaluated over a 2-year time period, and then they're going to credit you based on what happened over those 2 years. So what you're going to see is when you buy one of these policies on your first anniversary, if you've used a 2-year strategy, you'll get a 0% credited interest rate. That's normal because you're not going to pick it up until the second year. So that's why you see a very clear trend here every other year. If there is going to be crediting, it's every other year. And then some years you get zero because the market's down, just like your investments and traditional investments would be.
Yeah, so the column you just highlighted, there is an annual crediting strategy. If you think back to the pie chart we started this video off with, if you went the annual lock-in points, then that 300% might be 225%. So there's a choice. Again, you could do part of it in the 1-year lock-in, you could do part of it in the 2-year lock-in, however you want to design it.
Yeah.
But in this example, again, like Drew said, the reason there's zeros is because you don't get credit. You see zero, then a big number, zero, then a big number. You don't get credit till that 24-month period has passed.
And I guess, again, considering we're looking to 2022, that's why in the 10th year, which was 2022, market was down, you got 0% credit. So that's normal, in a down market. What you don't see is a negative number here. It's all either positive or zero. That's the beauty of a fixed index annuity.
Yeah. So if you look the surrender value, you see after the 10th year, you'll see the accumulation value and the surrender value, those begin to match. And so
Yep.
from that point forward, the numbers do match. And 100,000, if the past 10 years repeated, again, it's not guaranteed to do this. I might say that a dozen times. But if it repeats in some form or fashion, in year 20, that 100,000 is now a little over $971,000.
Right.
So how does that relate to retirement planning? How does it relate to long-term care planning? Unlike insurance, this is your money. This is money that you could spend on anything you want. It's now the difference is when you do begin to take funds out, you do have to pay taxes on it, just like any other investment. Versus hybrid long-term care insurance is paid tax-free. So, like I said, there's pros and cons of each side. But say age 83, 84, that's the year you need long-term care. Or say something happens, you fall and break your hip, you need long-term care. That far right column, that's where that enhanced liquidity benefit option comes from. So you have a choice. So if you need long-term care, you could walk away lump sum with your $971,000, or you could say, you know what, I want to receive a 25% bonus. So they'll take the 971, add 25% to it, which would be about $235,000. And then, so call it 1.2 million. Then they'll divide that by 5 years, and they'll pay you 5 equal payments of, is that 242,000, Drew?
Yep. 242 times 5.
Yep. So each year for the next 5 years, guaranteed. Now, once you do that, you can't turn it off. So you want to make sure when you make that decision that that's what you really want to do. And then say you die in year 2, what happens to my money? If you died in year 2, somebody still gets the remaining 3 payments. So you're never going to lose control of your principal of this product.
So I have a question on this, and I don't know if anybody's asked you this before.
Yeah.
You're taking a 25% bonus, but at that moment, they stop any growth from the indexes. So
they do. It's true.
Wouldn't it make sense in some cases, especially if you had a little bit higher risk profile, to just let it keep riding and not activate that 25% bonus?
It could, yeah. And it really, that's when you're going to have to talk with your doctor, evaluate yourself, your spouse, what type of conditions going on right then. If it's an acute situation, you probably might want more money up front. But if it's something where it's like a low grade long-term care where you're just having trouble moving around the house, you might need a few hours of here and there of home health care, then maybe it makes sense to keep it riding in the market. Especially, it's also going to depend on how it's been performing for you the previous 20 years.
Right.
If you've been getting 13%, maybe you just want to keep letting it roll. So,
yeah.
But it just gives you a choice. That's the key is you get a choice. And now this choice is not for free. There's nothing free in life. So if you want the enhanced liquidity benefit, that's 0.6.
Yep.
So in this example, you're paying 0.95 for the Fidelity indexes, and you're paying 0.6. But both of those fees are optional. You can buy this without it if you just like it because, hey, I want to still participate indirectly in the stock market, but I don't want to take the risk of having to have another 2022 and my portfolio goes down.
Right.
I had a client in November of 2021. He was in his late 70s. He had his money with a big investment house, and they had grown it to about 390,000. And he's always had good instincts, and he did a lot of praying. And he said, "I want to take my money out of the market." So he called me up and I found a product for him. It wasn't this particular one, but it was an equity index annuity. And he took his money out. He took because it had been in variable, I think it was a variable annuity, part mutual funds. And he took it out. And then November 2021, if you look at the market of the S&P 500, that's when it peaked. And then from there, that's when, I think Joe Biden had just gotten in. We had the inflation. We had the Ukraine war. So the market went down. I think the NASDAQ was down 40%. The S&P was down 25%. Dow was down 15%. So he wrote it all the way down, but his was got a 0% return. So he's and it just renewed this past November, and he did have to pay a fee. He was in some type of product, so his 390 is worth like 386. But if it would have been kept where it was in that big brokerage house, it probably would have been closer to 300,000. So, and that's something that he was older. He didn't have the time horizon to make up that difference. So he was very happy that he put his money in this type of product.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back senior in high school taking economics. I don't even know if they teach economics in high school anymore. It doesn't seem like it. But I remember my economics coach telling us the power of compounding. And that certainly applies if you're in the market. But I think a lot of us, and especially older investors and people that are looking at these products, they're still using that high school economics mentality of the power of compounding, which is great if you have 20 or 30 years. But if you've got 5 or 10 years before you might need the money, you need to be in something that is safer than just pure equities with all the downside risk.
Yeah. And again, this is just a small portion of your money. If you have $1 million portfolio, maybe you're putting 200K in this. You're not putting a big percentage of your assets. But going back to an example would be, say you had $100,000 investments. You have a choice. Do you want to leave it where it is in risk assets, even say indexed to like a S&P Spider Fund or something like that? If 2022 happens, that 100,000 is going to be worth 70,000. What percentage of a return do you have to get back to the 100,000? That next year, after you've taken that 30% hit, you got to get about a 45% return just to get back to even where you were. Versus this product, in that example, you'd probably be at 97,000. You still have to pay that fee. Thus, when the market recovers, you're working on the upside of the market at 97,000 plus versus working at the upside of the market at 70,000 after the hit plus.
Yep. So let's take a look at another page in this illustration. This shows us a couple different scenarios. Again, all non-guaranteed, so let's highlight that. But it kind of gives you over the last number of years, you can see the highest and then the lowest possible returns over a 10-year period. So let's kind of drill down into this because again, a lot of people have questions about this. So the lowest index growth period was actually basically the last 10 years. And then the highest was from 2009 to 2019. You can see how much of a difference that makes.
Yeah. And you'll see that, right under in the blue, green, and red, you'll see the net annual effective rate. It's important to highlight that because that is after, the fees. So that's what you're actually netting. So you do want to talk about this after fees. But yeah, it's, for a small portion of your assets, it allows you to indirectly participate in these indexes without shouldering the bulk of the risk if the market corrects.
Yeah, so we like it, especially combined with those liquidity features. And again, you're paying a 0.6% fee for that. However, almost virtually everyone buys that liquidity rider, which is 0.6%, so $600 a year on $100,000. And the reason why they buy that with this particular product is you get a host of a couple of different benefits from it. One of them you alluded to earlier was in any given year, if you have not taken a withdrawal in the prior year, you can take a 20% withdrawal without any penalties. So typically with an annuity, and this is why a lot of advisors, advise to be cautious with them, is there's a big withdrawal penalty if you take the money out early. This lets you take 20% out without any implications from fees from the annuity. That's one feature. Let's go through a couple more, Derek. What's another big one?
They have the ADL. So these annuities come with a surrender charge. So what the surrender charge is if you give the money to the insurance company, say it's a 10-year annuity. This is the Versa Choice 10. So they want you to keep it in there 10 years. So there's going to be a 10-year surrender charge structure. So if you give them the money, you take it out in the first year. Depending on what state you're in, they're probably going to hit you with 8%, 9%, and something like that. So you'd be left with 92,000. And then over time, that decreases to 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. I think 2 might bottom out in the 9th year. So if you need long-term care in the first 10 years, which needs help with your ADLs, that's the definition. They waive that surrender charge. That's another one of them.
All right, so let's say somebody is really intrigued about this and they purchase it, and then a few years from now they change their mind. That's the final benefit. So let's talk about how this actually has what I call an escape route if you decide you just don't like this product at all after you've been in it for a few years.
Yeah, I think it's after beginning the third year, I believe, you could just get all your money out with no fee. That's another factor. The enhanced liquidity benefit, that's another little feature of that rider you're paying for, is after, I think starting in year three, you can say, you know what, I want all my money back. Now it's also less those strategy fees. If you're in a strategy fee, you would still have to have paid those. But if you weren't in a strategy fee, they just give you all the money back.
Yeah, so your risk in the first couple of years is limited if you decide you want to do something different. So if something better comes along, et cetera, you'll just take your initial premium less those fees that were charged, and you can just pull that amount out and move it wherever you want without any penalty.
Yep, you got it. Well, I think we've kind of exhausted the illustration here. I think we've kind of drilled down enough. And if you're watching this video, Drew and I, we do videos on topics like this, long-term care, retirement planning all the time. So subscribe to our button down there if you're watching us on YouTube. And if you'd like a specific quote tailored to your specific needs in your state, we're licensed in all 50 states. We can fill up the go to our website, fill out the form, or call us. We'll be happy to get this information in front of you.
Yeah, and our bread and butter is trying to break these things down so that people can understand them and then also not oversell them. Like you said, pros and cons to all of these things. We like the North American for a lot of reasons, and thanks for watching.
Yep. Thanks, guys.